if I said to you, how can the Niners disrupt the Chiefs dynasty? What do you say? How do you do it?
Other than hoping that Mahomes is not the quarterback, whatever reason, it's tough. And I hate to sit here and agree. You read everything out there. You talked about all the dynasties that he broke and all the coaches and the quarterbacks he's beaten. Like, you can't argue the facts. Like, the Chiefs have been great. They've kind of taken over the Patriots as the new dynasty in the league. If they win a three-peat this year, which I hope they don't, I mean, you can't argue that they are a modern dynasty. Andy Reid, he was ridiculed for many years, just like Kyle. We all know it. Once he figured it out, now everybody's saying he's the greatest coach. So you really can't deny that unless there's a few things that happen. And I think the first one that has to happen, which could eventually, because he's such a good defensive coach, is Spags. If he becomes a head coach somewhere, then you can neutralize Andy Reid. Andy Reid's a fantastic coach, but if you take away his best defensive coach, his best coach on his roster, that guy might be able to beat Andy Reid, take him out of the playoffs, and the Niners don't have to worry about him, so you don't have to worry
hire
about
Spags. Him. You're saying hire Spags.
Not them hires, because they won't. I mean, they tried to last year. They didn't get it. So if somebody hires Spags as a head coach, because he's head coach candidate materially, he's not going to go and be a DC. He's got a couple of interviews lined up to be a head coach. If he could take a head coach job, I think he could take down Andy Reid. Like, I think Spags eventually develop a team. He's got to get a team, in front of him. And I think he's a guy that can actually take out Andy Reid if he were to go head to head and coach his ass. And he can beat Andy Reid. And then there you go. You eliminate the Chiefs, and the Niners can make the Super Bowl and then beat whoever else is in there.
Let me ask you a question I don't know the answer to, which is, could the Niners, if Robert Saleh got the Jacksonville job, let's just say, because Kev was saying that, looks good for Saleh in Jacksonville. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's just say he goes to Jacksonville. He gets that job. Could the Niners, could they even get Spags? Yeah, or would they, could the Niners say, hey, Spags, we'll make you the defensive coordinator, assistant head coach, and we'll double your salary? Whatever. I don't know. There's no cap on what you pay your coaches. So let's just say the Niners could say, hey, we'll double your salary and we'll change your title from defensive coordinator. I think if they took, I don't think the Niners could take a defensive coordinator from the Chiefs and make him their defensive coordinator.
No.
I think if you made him the assistant head coach, I think you could.
Maybe.
And then if you could give him a sizable raise, which would be why he would do it, that might be the route I would go. I would try to hire Spags, and I would make him the assistant head coach to try to, make sure that Kansas City couldn't block it. And then I would pay him a shit ton of money because I can. And you have to lure him to leave Kansas City and leave Mahomes and leave Reid. But you could do it with money, right?
I don't think he leaves Kansas City where he has Mahomes and Andy Reid and all, the refs on his side and all that, all the greatness that Kansas City has right now. I hate to say it, but yes, Kansas City's top team. I don't think he leaves that situation to go play with Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy. No disrespect, I love my team, but
he says he loves Brock Purdy.
Okay, he's okay. He's
no, I know, but
I get it. He's not going to leave Patrick Mahomes to go coach Brock Purdy unless he's that psychotic and he wants to prove a point that he could be anybody with any coach, like with any quarterback. But I don't think he takes a lateral move to be a DC. I don't care how much you're not giving him
Greenbacks.
DC, you're not getting that much as a DC where he can go get a head coaching job. If any team really wanted him, they'd pony up the money to be a head coach. Because why would you be an assistant head coach, when you can actually be the head? Spags is good enough to be a coach for anybody in this league, Larry.
But nobody's hired him.
Because he doesn't want. He's got the best defensive coordinator job in the NFL. Are you kidding me? Super Bowl after Super Bowl after Super Bowl. He's sitting there with Andy Reid and Mahomes. The only way he's going is if someone gives him a lot of greenbacks, like you said. But as a head coach, there's no reason to go to another team and be their DC. He's got a
been to Kansas City.
I have. I like the barbecue.
Yeah, but come on, you want to live in Kansas City, Missouri?
No,
there's gigantic bugs.
Hey, it's scary. Super Bowl.
I know nobody wants to live in California today, but
It's
still,
nice. It's
Northern
just
California. If you could have seen how nice it was today.
it was nice today.
Today was nice.
It was a beautiful
Today
day.
was like today was like springtime. It was amazing. It was like
Yeah,
70
it was
degrees
nice.
almost.
No.
Okay. So what would be your solution to run with the Chiefs? Because the reality is, what do you think Shanahan and Lynch have as far as time? 5 years,
I
6
think
years,
2
7 years?
years.
They
2
don't
years.
have the one thing we know they don't have an endless amount of time,
Yeah.
right? It's not endless. So it's finite. So Mahomes is 29 and Reed's going to coach for another 3 years. So how are the 49ers when they're going with Nick Sorensen and Brian Schneider and they have Mahomes and you have Purdy and they have freaking Chris Jones and you have Jordan Elliott and they have, I mean, think about it. I mean, they have Xavier Worthy and Pacheco and Kelsey and all these guys. I'm not saying the Niners don't have good weapons. I'm just saying, how are you going to beat Kansas City? How?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think obviously part of what you just said was your answer is part of what you just said is improve the coaches around, Shanahan and Lynch. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. Probably 2 to 3 years. I give them like.
And how do you do that? You got to overpay.
You got to overpay people. You got to overpay people and get some real deal coach. Like this offseason right now, we're witnessing it. They need to hire the right guys because if they don't hire the right guys again, they're not going to beat Mahomes or Josh Allen or Lamar. The other one is if we want to sit here and throw hypotheticals out there, and I think Brock's going to be the quarterback. Obviously, he's the franchise. But if there was ever an opportunity to go get Joe Burrow, if they had if there was like an ability to get Joe Burrow, to me, that's how you could beat Patrick Mahomes. If you look at the NFC,
but man, Raj, you're the most grounded, sensible guy that I stream with. I could have swore 30 seconds ago you said they could trade for Joe Burrow.
They can't. I'm just saying. You asked me.
That's the solution to run with the Chiefs is trade for Joe Burrow?
Man, then you'll get that bad.
Could you imagine tomorrow? The Niners have traded for Joe Burrow, and he is now their guy.
Can you imagine?
Okay, so you can't get Joe Burrow. Now I decided that that's not going to happen. You can't get Joe Burrow. So outside of trading for Joe Burrow, how would you beat the Chiefs? The Niners always say they love to say, you know what? We have a ball meeting every week. How about this, guys? Let's cancel our fucking ball meeting and let's have a meeting on how to beat the Chiefs.
They got to improve the O-line because we saw in the Super Bowl, O-line sold them on that. They still haven't addressed the edge rusher next to Bo. They've been trying, but they're not trying hard enough. You need to build that defensive line because you got to get in the trenches. I know everybody says you get to the quarterback, you put some pressure on Mahomes. They haven't been able to do it enough. I feel whenever the Niners play the Chiefs, like they just can't get to Mahomes, and he's like freelance. He's able to do whatever he wants to the Niners. So get a little bit more edge depth. Obviously, the coaches, like we said, get some better coaches that are going to put some pressure on them. That O-line is terrible. That O-line that the Niners had this year, they're not beating any team. They're not going to help this team beat any great team out there. So that's first and foremost. And yeah, you have to bring in some quality stars. Like we talked about the Rams earlier. They really hit on that draft and they added some absolutely young stars to that D-line. The Niners need to do that. They need to get younger. They need to get better talent. You need to get some playmakers because I think they have good players on this team. We know Kittle and, they have some great stars, Nick Bosa and Fred Warner, but they need some more young superstars to build because, okay, Patrick Mahomes is 29. He'll get older. You need to keep infusing this team with young talent. But to beat the Chiefs, you really have to be able to take down Patrick Mahomes, and that's easier said than done. And the only guy that you said, like you said, is able to do it was Burrow because he can go toe-to-toe and outduel him, with his ability. So unless Brock Purdy's doing that, I don't know if we can beat the Chiefs.
I think there's only one way to beat the Chiefs.
How is it?
There isn't like, it's not like you hey, if you could just sign, there's not like one player out there that you could just be like, just sign this guy. Nope. It's not, it doesn't work that way. It's not the way football is. To me, the only route that I see to beating the Chiefs is to be disciplined. What is the hit rate on a draft choice?
No, you tell me.
I mean, I would say it's either, I would say it's 50-50.
Okay.
I would say it's 50-50. And what I would say it's just 50-50, just people across the board. Now, obviously it's going to be higher for a first round draft choice, a hit rate than the 7th round draft choice, right? But in some ways it's always 50-50 because you're either going to be a player or you're not. You're either going to make it or you're not. But and I know it's, the failure rate is greater on the lower picks than it is on the higher picks. But to me, what the Niners have to do is they have to trade back from 11 to 15, trade back from 15 to 18, trade back from 18 to 22, trade back from 22 to 28.
Wow.
And those 4 trade backs, you need to pick up 7 or 8 more picks, and you got to draft 20 guys, and you're going to hit on some and you're going to miss on some. But the Niners have shown such a propensity to hit on their day 3 picks and their undrafted guys that tells me they got a good eye for talent. That means that somebody in that personnel department knows what the fuck they're doing. You don't just luck into good players after the draft. They didn't just luck into Evan Anderson. They knew that they should pay him $380,000 guaranteed. So somebody in that personnel staff or coaching staff said, you know what? This guy's good. We need him. Okay. So that to me would be my game plan. Trade back 3 or 4 times, wind up with 3 or 4 picks in the 3rd round, 4th round, and 5th round, and then see if you can hit. If all of a sudden you have this amazing draft, and you can hit on 70, 80%, 90% of your picks, and you draft 20 guys, you know what? That you can do it that way. What you have to do is you have to be willing to say goodbye to the automatic blue chipper. And let's be honest, the Niners have a terrible track record at being able to handicap the first couple rounds of the draft. They're not good at it. Dante Pettis tells me they're not good at it. Aaron Banks tells me they're not good at it. You name it. Trey Lance tells me they're not good at it. They have missed a lot. Solomon Thomas ain't it. Thank you, NB. Reuben Foster. The Niners, Ahkello Witherspoon played well last night. He hadn't played well until last night. Javon Kinlaw. They've missed a lot at the top of the draft, but they keep hitting on Elijah Mitchell. They keep hitting on J.P. Mason. They keep hitting on Raheem Mostert. They keep hitting on Jeff Wilson. They keep hitting on Kevin Givens. They keep, you know what I'm saying? So how about this? Give up first, give up the high second, get into the middle of the second, trade back, get 5 to 7 extra picks in the mid rounds for doing so, and see if you can hit at a high enough rate where you can build a young, talented roster that has a bunch of guys that are all roughly at the same point in their career, kind of the way the Dallas Cowboys did with the Herschel trade, where they got like 7 draft picks and all kinds of players. And all of a sudden they made all these picks, and then they had a bunch of guys that were all roughly the same age. And you had this core of a dynasty, and sure enough, they won three times in 5 years or 3 times in 4 years or whatever it was. So that would be my plan. Trade back. If you're going to sign free agents, go sign young free agents, 26-year-old, 27-year-old, no 32-year-old free agents. No, I know, Kyle Posey said Harrison Smith. No, nobody who's played their best football years ago and are just getting paid. No, trade back, kill it with volume, and try to have that same philosophy for like 2 or 3 years in a row, and then see what happens after 3 years in a row. Because when I looked at what Detroit got done in the first 3 rounds in 21, 22, and 23, they picked their entire team in those 3 drafts. They literally, every great player that the Lions has or have were taken in the first 3 rounds of the draft. Amon-Ra went in the 4th round. Everybody else, Branch, and you name it. I mean, Aiden Hutchinson, Penei Sewell, Brian Branch, all these guys. They're all first 3 round picks. Kirby Joseph. These guys all went in the first 3 rounds. So the Niners can't pick in the first round. So stop picking bad guys in the first round. Trade out of the first round, trade out of the second round, get into the 3rd round, and then have just 10 picks between the 3rd and the 5th round. And just see if you can go 10 for 10. And guess what? If you can go 10 for 10, you're going to be on top of the football world.
I mean, to an agree, I agree. To a point, I agree, because this team, they got really old and they're losing a lot of players, 36, 38 expiring contracts.
Volume in the draft on the trade back. That would be my plan.
I think they need to get young 100% because you need to stack talent. And one thing you said that I really like is getting free agents in their prime. Stop getting older guys that are past their prime. Because if you're going to get a free agent and pay somebody money, you want to make sure they're going to be able to be worth something and contribute to your team. When you get these 33, 34-year-old players, they're not going to really contribute as much as they once were in their career. So get some premium play. If you're going to pay for someone that you know is going to come in and make an impact. Because that's what the Chiefs do. How many times you sit there and you see, oh, breaking news, the Chiefs have signed, and you're like, well, how did the league let him go to this team? You know what I mean? So go get some really good young 28, 29-year-old free agents that are in their prime, because that's how you're going to compete with these top teams like the Chiefs. And I like the fact of getting younger, but at the same time, you can't hit on every draft. If you
can't hit on every pick, you can't. You're not going to hit on every pick, but kill it with volume on the trade back, because Mahomes is not going anywhere. He's in the super prime of his career, and he will be probably for another 3 years. And since Reed's 49 wins away from John Shula, he's probably going to coach 5 more years. And so that makes sense. He's going to coach 5 more years until Mahomes is 34. And Mahomes is going to probably win 2 or 3 more rings in that period of time. So if you're the 49ers and you want to disrupt this unbelievable dynasty, I outside of stealing Spags away, which would be great, but I don't think it's doable. I think if you're actually going to do it on your own accord, you're going to have to just, instead of taking first round, basically what the Niners are doing, they're taking first round picks and they're getting 3rd round value or no value out of their first round pick. What they need to do is they need to trade that first round pick into the 3rd round for multiple 3rd round picks. And then they need to find first round value in the 3rd round instead of turning their first round pick into a 3rd round value. They need to literally do the opposite. Ricky Pearsall is like a 3rd round pick. They took him in the 1st round. No more of that. Trade out of the 1st round into the 3rd round and find guys in the 3rd round that should have gone in the 1st round, not the opposite.
Yeah, because they're so bad at drafting in the 1st round. The chat listed out the piece. Solomon Thomas, Reuben Frost, Javon Kill. Are you kidding me? Some of these 1st round picks were terrible. Mike McGlinchey. This man, did you see Mike McGlinchey at the playoff game this weekend? He was practicing his stance in the middle of a fucking game. What are you doing? This guy's and we drafted him with the 9th pick. So I agree.
Yeah, once again, no more. I mean, that's a good example too, Raj. No more low ceiling guys.
Yeah.
Don't take a right tackle with the 9th pick in the draft. Okay? Do not. If a guy can't play left tackle, don't use a top 10 pick on him. They've done that. They've done that a few times. They've taken kind of, guys that are, decent players, but they've taken them too high. And then they've also whiffed. Jalen Hurd, Dante Pettis. I mean, you name it. We could go right down the list. They've whiffed 20 times in the first 3 rounds under this regime. They've missed 12 times in the first 3 rounds in just 21, 22, and 23 drafts combined. You can't miss 12 picks in the first 3 rounds in a 3 draft period and not feel it. The Niners did miss on all those picks, and that's why they're not in the playoffs. And if they want to get off the canvas, they're going to have to reverse this. They're going to have to take their first round pick, trade it for 3 third round picks, and then hit on all 3 third round picks like their first rounders.
Yeah.
But
for the Niners, this is the thing, because they have to, even if you get all these draft picks, like you're saying, which I don't disagree with you.
You got to hit.
they got to, if they got these drafts, they got to make them hit, because this last year they did a great job drafting. Okay,
Right.
maybe the new scouts they brought in were better, or just did things differently, because we all loved Adam Peters and he would hit late round, like 5th round picks. They didn't have them. Whatever they did this year, it worked, because even still, even if you trade up those picks, you got to hit. But to me, it's like, why are you missing on your first round pick? These first round picks, like, Larry, this is somewhere the best talent in the NFL could be. You can have home run players if you just know how to draft a first round pick, because there's some quality players. Obviously, people miss and people fall through the cracks, and that's why you get these mid-round, late-round steals. But holy smack, if the 49ers were actually good at talent scouting in the first round, we wouldn't even need to have this conversation. So regardless is if you trade back or if you get first round picks, bottom line is you have to hit on your draft picks. And that's what's really hurt the Niners, is not landing your draft picks. They could have had all the picks in the world, but if they didn't hit on them, like, look at the players that Trey Sermon, even in the mid rounds, because it's not just the first rounds. They've missed mid-round picks.
A third-round whiff. That's a third-round whiff right there.
Jake Moody. I mean,
okay, and that's another one too. No more kickers.
No more bad picks, and
no more punters.
Larry, stay away from injury prone play. Like, don't draft an injured player. They do that all the time. And don't go and get a free agent that has a history of injuries. Stay away from injuries, period. Please stop it.
I watch the Eagles and I see Jalen Hurts, and I know he's not as good as Brock Purdy. But guess what? He's playing a totally different game. He's lining up behind a monster offensive line. He's handing the ball to Saquon Barkley. They're getting to 3rd and 4, and they're handing it to Barkley, and he's getting down to like a 4th and 1, and then they're tush pushing it. It's amazing. I mean, they literally were in the Niners spot a year ago. They lose the Super Bowl. They had a terrible Super Bowl hangover, got bounced in the first round, dumped the OC, dumped the DC, brought in Mekhi Becton. That's another one too. It's like, build a big physical fortress of an offensive line around Brock Purdy. Stop. When was the last time you saw the 49ers run somebody off the field? When was the last time the 49ers finished a game that they won on offense? I mean, it's almost hard to picture it because it doesn't happen. What happens is, even in games where the 49ers lead in the fourth quarter, when everybody knows they have to run, or they're trying to run the game out, run the clock out, the Niners run, they get stuffed, and then they put their defense back out there. And that's what happens with the 49ers repeatedly. They cannot finish games on offense. Build yourself a big physical offensive line, get yourself a big physical running back, and run the ball in the low red zone. Run the ball on 2nd and goal from the 4. Run the ball on 3rd and goal from the 4. Come on.
Trenches.